the other project that I wanted to talk about today is the documentary, the mini documentary. This is your individual video. So let's talk about what a documentary is and the steps that you need to take to do a documentary, because you are really kind of technically working on this simultaneously as you do your PSA. So you'll be doing some pre-production as you're finishing your post-production and your PSA potentially, right? Okay, so these are from documentary filmmakers. And I just thought they were super interesting, so I thought I'd share them with you, different people's definitions of a documentary. A documentary film purports to present factual information about the world outside the film. A nonfiction film about real events and people, often avoiding traditional narrative structures. Documentary is the creative treatment of actuality. So you are not making up stories here. You are telling real stories about real people. Now, I'm requiring you guys to shoot your own stuff, but I wanted to show you this trailer for Summer of Soul. And by the way, if you have not watched this documentary, it's a great doc. Okay, so Questlove found old footage of this Summer of Soul event, and it really had never seen very much of the light of day. And so he wrote this documentary and shot this documentary around the footage that he found in someone's basement, if I remember correctly.
Are you ready, black people?
So you can tell this is the old footage. It's the 4x3, right? So the same summer as Woodstock, this huge event happened.
Nobody ever heard of the Harlem Culture Festival. Nobody would believe it happened. We think we make you artists. The Panthers would have said 15 kids were sitting up on the tree. I didn't expect a crowd like that. Something very important was happening. It wasn't just about the music. 1969 was a change of era in the Black community. The styles were changing. Music was changing, and revolution was coming together. That concert took my life from black and white into color. We wanted progress. We are Black people, and we should be proud of it. We were coming together to say this was our world and how beautiful it was. We're going to try to sing a song together. Don't wait for your neighbor, because your neighbor might be waiting for you. We believed in what we felt in here. So then we wanted to, let's go. Let's go do it.
So telling the true story of something that really happened, right? Okay, so let's talk about key features of documentaries. They focus, like I said, on real people and real stories. They present the truth as understood by the director or the producer, which is you. You're both of those. Production methods most of the time are pretty minimalist and pretty natural. And by that, I mean, they don't, build elaborate sets. It's not like a TV show where they have, houses and things like that. They interview people in their homes or in natural places without manipulating it very much other than lighting. The key focus is to bring a story to more people or to shed light on what is unknown. Basically, it narrows down to this. The purpose of a documentary is to record, reveal, preserve, and to persuade, right? So with Questlove's, it was already recorded, but this footage was hidden and no one ever saw it, right? So he revealed it, he showed it to us, but in essence, he's also preserving it. So keep these in mind as you kind of start producing your own. Which one or two, maybe, of these purposes is your documentary going to serve? So here's some examples from students. In this first one, Lindsay tells the story of her grandmother who had lost her leg due to cancer when she was 18 or 19 years old, learns to dance with her artificial limb. By the way, this is Lindsay's, just to show you another example of an e-portfolio. She calls herself the friendly environmentalist. The one thing I did tell her is to make her name larger right here, because it really needs to be. And then you'll see her recent post. And since she is a sustainability major and an environmentalist, then this is pretty minimal, pretty natural looking, right? So she has the about. And you'll see the green kind of matches the green in the kayak. And you can click to see her resume right over there. And then she has her blog posts. And each one has a photographic icon. And you can click on them to finish reading them. Her podcasts. So the Friendly Eco podcast, she created that logo for her podcast. So you guys will have to create a logo of some sort for your podcast. That's hers. And then she has visual projects. That's her visual essay. And so her visual essay was about ways to live sustainable, a sustainable life, because that's the theme of her whole site, right? And each of these photographs, she put it in a gallery that slides through. Each of these photographs show ways that you can help minimize your carbon footprint. So I think that went through all of them. And then let me scroll back up. Let's go to her video projects. She was also in the Nightly News, so she did a bunch of news stories for the Nightly News. So let's go down to the dance journey of Marilyn Warner. So she did her PSA on gratitude. So she did a concept PSA. I'm not going to show you that, but I am going to show you the dance journey of Marilyn Warner.
Despite the many challenges thrown towards her in life, Marilyn Warner has risen above and has fulfilled her dream to dance at the age of 75. Although Marilyn just started dancing in the past couple of years, her love of dance began much earlier in her lifetime.
As a little girl, I used to put on programs for my family, dancing programs, and I would be the sole star. I'm sure my family got tired of seeing me dance.
Marilyn's dreams of becoming a dancer were put on hold when she received grave news about her health after high school.
I was 18 when I was diagnosed with cancer and had to have my right leg amputated. And then later on, I had an accident walking when I was about 57. I shattered most of my leg. That kind of slowed me down by putting me in a wheelchair. It took probably a year for me to get to a point where I could walk almost. And I ended up with a chance to go to a dance studio.
At this dance studio, Marilyn met Robert Wright, her dance instructor who she has been dancing with for the past 10 years.
She actually came into the studio with her daughter and just to watch, and was a little reluctant to start. When I say a little reluctant, she described that she was an amputee, so she said, nah. I said, well, I'm gonna ask again. And I did until I can't recall exactly how long it was, but 3 or 4 months later, she decided she was gonna take lessons.
I am so thankful that I met him when I did, because I might still be in a wheelchair if it wasn't for that. I have to be really careful with my dance, because if I try to do too much, it causes a great deal of fatigue. Being an amputee, you find that, if you have an artificial leg, the amount of energy that you have to use to accomplish the same thing as an average person, the energy is just incredible, and you get really tired. really quickly when you're dancing as an amputee.
We all take our legs and our feet for granted, but they do things that we don't even think about. We just don't give it a minute's worth of thought. With Marilyn, I've literally had to rewrite the book of how we teach people. She has full articulation in the left foot, and whatever the mechanics will give her of her artificial limb in the right foot. So sometimes I have to get a little creative with things like amounts of turn. As a teacher, we have a manual that we go by, where the feet go, how the feet go, where the body turns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't work for her. So I have to get a little creative.
While dancing is physically strenuous for Marilyn, it also has its emotional challenges as well.
I used to have a problem with comparing myself to other people. And I never felt that I was good enough at anything. That, I felt like I had to be perfect. And I realize it's not a realistic goal, but that's how I felt. Since then, I've realized that I cannot compare myself to other people because I do not have the same starting point as other people have had. And that makes a difference.
She's hardworking, she's compassionate, she's driven. She's one of the kindest people I know that would do anything to help somebody. When she decides she wants to do something, she doesn't let anything stop her. So I would say almost even to the point of being stubborn and pig-headed, but not in a bad way.
Best word to describe her in one word is inspiring. Her outlook on life is something that everybody should subscribe to.
Marilyn is beyond a handicapped dancer fulfilling her dreams. She's a caring friend, mother, and grandmother. She is an inspiration and a role model that everyone can look up to in life.
So the story of Lindsay's grandmother who learned to dance with an artificial leg. So that was a very personal story. So the real character, of course, was Marilyn Warner, Lindsay's grandmother. The expert was the dance instructor. And then she also had her two daughters in there as kind of supporting characters, supporting the characteristics that Marilyn was showing in, achieving this dance journey. Okay. Okay, so I want to show you one that Ashlyn did last semester. This is a friend of hers whose sister has disappeared due to her drug use. So trigger warning for this because this person is a missing person. And I think I've showed you Ashlyn's e-portfolio, but let's take a look at it. This is her e-portfolio, and she calls it Keeping It Colorful is her domain name. So that's part of her brand, right? And so instead of having a photograph, she has video of herself right there and the photograph, of course, up there. And you can see how it slides. She does want to do a lot with lifestyle. So she has that section. And then up on the top left, you can see her different tabs: About Me, Lifestyle, Blogs, Projects, and her resume. So she makes it easy for people to find her resume. I did tell her that she should make these a little bit larger because they are a little bit small since that's video behind it. So let's look at her projects. She has creative videos that she's done for her sorority. And then here's the tab for her documentary and her PSA. I showed you her PSA. Now let's look at her documentary.
Epidemic of addiction to opioids, including heroin and prescription painkillers, taking more than 80 lives a day.
At war with methamphetamine.
Died from excessive drinking.
Killed more than 100,000
So this
Americans,
is an example of fair
leaving
use.
communities
She's
and
using
destroying
news
Could be
clips
considered a
to show
nationwide
the prevalence
epidemic.
of this
When is
problem.
it time to get
And
some
each
help?
one of these are less than
In the
15
United
seconds long.
States, drug and alcohol addiction has become a looming epidemic that has taken the lives of over 19.7 million Americans. However, this statistic does not even begin to reflect the countless lives affected by the troubling addiction of a loved one. In fact, nearly 50% of all Americans know someone who has battled or is currently struggling with a substance abuse disorder. They could be a friend, family, a stranger, maybe even someone you know.
It's my friend, my aunt,
My cousins.
my uncle, my brother, myself.
With millions of untold stories, this is Emily's.
I have to protect my own peace by not letting her back into my life. So I don't really remember having much of a relationship with my sister other than when I was little and I just looked up to her a lot and I wanted to dress like her and I wanted to listen to the same music as her. And I remember that she reminded me of Kesha. And at the time, Kesha was so cool. And I wanted to be just like my sister because to me, like Katie and Kesha, like were the same. That's like how much I looked up to her and wanted to be like her.
Emily's older sister, Katie, developed a drug addiction when she was in high school. Emily was just 10 years old when she realized her sister had a problem and recalls the first night she noticed something was wrong.
She moved out for the first time and she had gone missing for the first time of the many times that she did go missing. And she came back and she was like, I'd never seen her before. She was like loopy. And I remember my parents made her sleep in my room and she was like screaming in her sleep because she was like strung out. And I think that's when it really settled in that she had a problem.
Even at her young age, Emily knew her sister needed help, but it remained unclear if she would ever obtain it.
I only ever remember her getting help probably once ever because she won't accept help. A part of drug addiction and getting better for her was that she would go to the methadone clinic. So methadone is, I believe, also an opiate and it just makes you stop doing other drugs. It's just as bad as like crack, anything like that, but it makes you stop doing multiple. It makes you so that you can't do multiple drugs at once. And so she would have to go to the clinic every day and get her methadone. And that's what made her stop doing the other stuff. So it's like being a healthy drug addict almost. But her addiction took her away from her family once again. After battling addiction in her youth, it appeared as though Katie was finally clean when she got married and had her daughter, Evie. I think 2 years ago, she went missing for good. For a long time, we didn't know where she was. We had heard from police officers because we have some in my family. And we had heard that they had seen her on the streets and she had been involved with some really bad people, but we hadn't heard from her. She had seen the missing persons reports and just went about her life as if she was a ghost. And actually the way that they found her was because she was with someone and they had stolen the car together. And she went to jail. Katie's addiction affected everyone in her life, including her young daughter, Evie. So Katie did drugs when she had Evie in the womb. So Evie came out a little bit delayed. She is supposed to be starting kindergarten this year, actually. She's almost 5 years old. She is not potty trained. She cannot speak in full coherent sentences, and a lot of other things. She doesn't understand social cues and such because she is so delayed because of my sister doing drugs. Katie last saw her daughter over a year ago. She's never really been there for her. It's really been her grandparents because my sister's husband is actually also a drug addict. So it's really just been a grandparent thing for Evie. And she's a really good set of grandparents, which is awesome, but it's a really big bummer that she can't have a good parent. However, I will say that her having Evie out of all of this, it almost feels like I lost a sister and gained another. And it's really nice. Today, Katie has yet to come home or seek medical treatment. I would say at the end of the day, Katie still is my blood sister. Obviously, there's no changing that. But just because she is my blood sister does not make her family to me. For her, there just hasn't been any happy ending. It's never too late to get help. If you or someone you know is struggling with substance abuse, call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP or visit www.findtreatment.gov to find a qualified healthcare provider in your area.
So that particular documentary, it could also work as a PSA.
My sister, mother.
So that particular documentary could also work as a PSA. It did have a call to action. It was using her personal story to raise awareness about the drug addiction issue we have in this country, right? So does one type of story preclude it from being another type? No, certainly not, because this is a prime example of that, right? So I'm going to put the link to Saving Sam by Elijah in the in Moodle for you, because it's about 10 minutes long. So of course the assignment is only to have it 5 minutes long, but when Elijah and I sat down, we discovered that the story was bigger than a 5-minute story. So I allowed him to take it to 10 minutes. So I want you guys to watch that. This is about his tennis coach who grew up in Sierra Leone during the time when they were taking children to be child soldiers and forcing them to fight a war, in a civil war, and how he got out and how tennis saved him. So I will put that link for you in Moodle. So let's look at the assignment now. Each student will create an individual video in this course of mini documentary. This project is designed to give you hands-on experience working in the digital medium of video storytelling. Using audio and video recording, the editing techniques, you will create a digital video mini documentary on an approved topic that tells a story of a person, a group, or issue on campus or in the community. You will use Adobe Premiere to edit. You should be challenging your own skills and enhancing your practice. So you should be showing me other techniques and learning from the feedback that I gave you on your PSAs to implement those ideas into this particular project. So same process though, right? You will practice storyboarding. You'll go do your interviews. You'll transcribe your interviews, and then you'll choose your sound bites. And then you'll drop those into the script, and then you'll write your transitions if you need them between, and you'll voice that, and then you'll edit the whole thing together. That's the process. So some goals and guidelines that you need to have in here. The goal is to present a quality edited documentary style video that tells the story. This can be 4 or 5 minutes in length. What I'm looking for, if you're a little longer or a little shorter, that's okay, as long as you tell the complete story and there's a complete story arc there. Okay, you and I will discuss this individually based on your pieces. You're going to storyboard your idea to kind of focus your efforts. Then you're going to go conduct your interviews. You want the real character, the real person, and then you want maybe an expert on the topic, or people who know that real person and can supplement what that real person is saying about whatever the case is that's going on with them. So you should, at the very least, have 2 interviews, one your real person and one person that's going to supplement what they say, whether that's an expert in the field or someone who knows them personally. So for instance, if you're doing a profile of your teammate or whatever, then you're going to talk to your teammate, but you're also probably going to either talk to the coach or talk to another teammate. I believe somebody in here wants to do their position coach. So maybe your coach is the real person, and then some of your teammates are the other people who talk about what that coach is like to work with and what kind of influence they've had on their lives. Okay. So when you present the video, it should be unified and basically presented as one voice, which is your voice, right? So you're going to use your narration to pull all of the sound bites together. You should not use copyrighted video unless you're following the fair use guidelines and you clear it with me first. You also saw in Ashland's where she had some stock footage of people doing drugs and things like that. Obviously she couldn't shoot that. So I will allow you to use 1 or 2 shots. But again, I have to pre-approve it, and it has to be something that you could not shoot yourself. Okay. You must have a video sequence in there, which we'll talk about. on the assignment document for this and the PSA, attached to the assignment document is the rubric by which you will be graded. Take a serious look at that rubric, because there are certain elements that you must have in there that aren't listed on this part of the document. Okay. For instance, you must have a 5-shot sequence in your mini documentary. You don't have to have one in your PSA, but you do have to have one in your mini documentary. So be creative, guys. There's all kinds of different forms of documentary style videos. And again, no stock footage unless I expressly give you consent to use it. And by the way, this is also true for AI. There might be an instance where one of you want to give SAM-E or one of the AI websites some information and create some video for you. I am not opposed to doing that. However, what I would like you to do is, one, get it approved by me first. Show me the video, because I want to make sure that it's the quality that we need. And then, and sometimes they do have issues with quality. And then the other thing is, I want you to be transparent about it, that you did not shoot this video, right? So again, because if we're not transparent about how we put our stories together, then we lose credibility when people find out that we use stuff that we didn't curate or create ourselves, right? So let's have individual conversations about that. I am okay. I would treat that as a stock footage, except for in the credits, I would have you put credits in there thanking the website that generated the artificial intelligence video for you. Okay, the AI video. So if you have questions about that, email me. But again, all of that has to be pre-approved by me. You and I have to sit down and have a discussion about why you wouldn't be able to go shoot that footage yourself. Okay. Okay, so these are the steps you'll take to produce this. You'll select a topic and pitch it. Done, right? Step 2, once your story is approved, determine your content. What do you need to tell the story? Who do you need to interview? Go ahead and set up those interviews, right? Think of your questions. What B-roll do you need of them? What general B-roll do you need? Make a shot list. And the reason I have you start with your interview first is because a lot of times you don't know your shot list until you know specifics about what they talk about. Okay, so conduct your interviews first. Then you're going to transcribe those interviews. We in the business, we call that, we're going to log the interview, right? Then the reason I'm having you transcribe them is then it's easy to just copy and paste them into your Word document and into your 2-column script, and then write your transitions between them. Okay. Now you may have soundbite, transition sentence, soundbite, or you may have 5 sound bites and then a transition sentence. That just depends on the story that's being told. And we'll dive in more into that a little bit later about story construct and how to put it together. You're going to create those video files, interview, narrate, find your music that you want to use. You're going to edit the whole thing together based on your script. And the way that you do that, and I'll go over this again, but I'll go over it now too, is that you put your sound bites down on the track, then you lay your voice track, and that's called basically your A-roll, right? Your A-roll is your interview. And then, and only then, do you start dropping in your B-roll, because you don't know how long those B-roll clips need to be until you have all the audio down, right? Now you can put your music bed down last, but as far as like narration and the sound of people telling the story, right? You don't know exactly what B-roll you need until you get that, right? So that's putting B-roll is one of the last things that you do. Okay. All right. So tonight, what you have to do is, so if you have, let me back up. If you have any questions about that, email me. And be thinking about and making your schedule for your shooting of your videos, right? So tonight for your for your lab, you're going to do your visual essay storyboard in Moodle. This is a fillable PDF. So once you download this, you should be able to type in here. I can't because this is, oops, let me escape, go back. I can't because this is a screen grab of it. Okay, but you should be able to type in here. So I've given you some examples. So if you've taken the pictures, then you can copy and paste the pictures in those squares, in these squares. If you have not taken the pictures yet, you can plan what picture, what photograph you are going to take. Okay, so for instance, this person planned a photograph of the gates, right? And then down here on the 3 lines below it is where you're going to talk about your plan, if that photograph needs any manipulation to help you tell the story, or whatever the case may be. So instance, this one was a good photograph. It was centered symmetry. She left it as is. Okay. This one was a photograph of, I think this was a trip to Italy or something. And she was going to put gelato on the awning of the gelato shop because it wasn't on there. So that was where she was adding her typography. This one, they didn't have to really do anything to, but it's an example of their depth of field, right? Because remember, for your visual essay, you have to have everything either has to follow rule of thirds or centered symmetry, but then you also have to have 3 examples of other framing compositions in there, right? So, so for instance, on this one, they worked on the color saturation. And on this one, they added peach to something in there because peach was kind of a thematic color throughout the visual essay. So she was going to find someplace in every photograph that either had peach or where she could add peach, the color. Okay. So tonight you are to do these and turn them in so that I can look at your plan for carrying out your visual essay, right? And then tomorrow is a workshop day where you can either, if you haven't taken the photographs, you can go take them. If you've taken them, which I hope you have, then you can use tomorrow to work on them and to create your visual essay. These are due next Thursday, the 27th. So you do have some time. The thing that's due before that, though, is the podcast. So if you're not finished with your podcast, you need to finish that tomorrow because your podcast is due on Monday. So work on your podcast. Maybe you're taping your podcast tomorrow. Use tomorrow to plan your video shoots, right? So we're not having class, but it's a workshop day for you. Don't lose that day. Okay. So you should be working on a couple of different things. You should be working on your visual essay, your podcast, or planning your videos. Okay. Or writing your next blog, which is also due on Friday, the 26th. Right. So you have plenty of things to work on. So make sure that you're working, especially on these major projects, because you don't want to try to throw them together the night before. You can't do that with this type of project. Okay. All right, so just a couple of reminders, which I think I just reminded you of. Visual essay storyboards are due tonight. I will look at them and give you feedback on them. If you have the photographs, please put the photographs in there. That will, the further along you are in this process, the more I can help you. Okay. Again, tomorrow's a workshop day, so you should be working on some of your projects. Blog 2 is due Friday, the 21st. Lab 11 is due Thursday, so you do have a lab tomorrow. So go into Moodle and check that lab. This is a mini blog that you are writing. Let me double check. Yes, this is a mini blog on the websites that you visit every day. So in this mini blog, you're going to have 5 paragraphs, 1 introduction, 1 paragraph on one website, 1 paragraph on the second website, 1 short paragraph on the third website, and then a conclusion. All right, 5 paragraphs. Short. The other difference in between this mini blog and the others, and all of this is on the instruction sheet, but I'm telling you now, is that you need 3 photographs of some sort that show us what the website's about. And then of course 3 hyperlinks because you're going to hyperlink to those websites. Now, if you discuss other things that require hyperlinks, then obviously you're going to have them, but I'm only requiring you to have 3. Okay. So that's the lab for tomorrow. That should take you less than 30 minutes to write that. Okay. And then your podcast is due on Monday. Your podcast is due on Monday, but we're not going to listen to it on Monday. But it is due. So make sure that you send me the SoundCloud link and that you upload your reflection blog of the project into Moodle by Monday's class time. Okay, and I'm gonna start checking them. And then, do I have a day where we critique them? If I can fit a day in where we can critique them, I will, but right now I don't have it in there. So you will upload them and I will critique them and give you feedback. Okay. All right. If you have questions, let me stop my share. If you have questions, then please just email me. Even though I am traveling, I'm available via email, and I'm happy to help with whatever I can help. And we can Zoom or whatever we need to do. Set up a time that works for both of us. Okay. All right, everyone. Have fun tomorrow. Be creative. Get some project work done. And I'll see you back for a class discussion that will, of course, be a taped class discussion on Monday, the 24th. Okay. If you have any questions, again, email me. Take care.